I want to welcome everyone to another edition of the Profitable Christian Business Podcast. And I am so pleased to have my guest, Stu Morris, with me today. We're going to dive into all kinds of things around neuroplasticity. As if you're over the age of 50 and you want to avoid any mental decline and you want to improve how much you get out of your brain, per se, Stu and I are going to dive into that. He's got a lot of information on that. But without further ado, Stu, why don't you tell us a little about who you are?
Well, Doug, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. I love your podcast. I do about 60 podcasts, maybe 100 podcasts a year, and you have a great podcast. So I really appreciate being here, and your audience is sharp. Appreciate that. I'm Stu. I'm a little farm kid I'm a kid from a little farm town, and I live on the coast of California. And I do one thing, and that's I just teach folks over 51 neuroplasticity solutions for cognitive longevity, because we are all going to live longer. So
nice. We're going to get into all of that because I'm sure everybody that's listening wants to know how to have longer brain. What's brain span, for lack of a better word, to prolong their mental acuity. That's the word I'm looking for as long as they can, right? But what I like to do in the very beginning of these podcast interviews is kind of get to know the guest a little bit better. So we have some fun questions. And one of those first fun questions is, if you could travel anywhere in time, where would you go and why?
I like that question because it blends creativity, with the answer there, because you don't really know. But I got to tell you, I had a client that was 104 years old, and he said, boy, the greatest thing was running water when he didn't have to go out to the outhouse and it was like 30 below or something like that. So, but I often thought in the first century, or the first 20 years of the first century there, maybe being one of the guys on the boat when they're out fishing all day with no fish. And then Jesus walks by and says, you cast your net on the other side. And they can't even get in the boat. They've got to drag it to shore. But the best part is they leave the fish. They drag the fish to shore, but they have decided to follow something else. And I think that would be just so amazing to be part of that. But I do love to be out on the surfboard too. And I would use that.
Yeah, nice.
So it'd be tough. I'd almost want to be, right here, right now, where we're at with technology and being able to communicate with the world. Which, of course, just 20 years ago, we thought that's kind of silly. Dial up. You still can't talk to the world. This will never happen. And now we sure can. And all tongues and all nations and all people will know the truth all at the same time. And that's available to us right now.
That's right.
Now's a pretty cool time to live, too.
Yeah.
One or the other. I'm going to go with one or the other.
The pushback on that question I often get when I do ask it is, do I have to stay there? Right. If I go back in that time, that's really if I don't have to stay there, the answer is going to be much different. Right.
Yeah. You need to form your question and say, if it was like the zoo and you could just visit, when would you like to go?
Yeah. Because I would pick very much the same as you. I'd pick to go back when Jesus was, and just kind of be able to observe everything that happened then. So I love that answer. But yes, I would also want to come back to the conveniences of modern society.
Yeah, it's a lot to miss. I remember when I was a little kid, we were on our way to Disneyland, and I remember praying in the back of the car. Oh, dear Lord, please don't come back until we're done with Disneyland.
Yes.
I was a little kid, but I remember that well. So nice. I'm with you.
The next question I have for you is, if you focus on cognitive health for adults over 51, as you mentioned, what's one hobby or activity that you like that you feel like helps keep your brain sharp?
Well, I like learning things when they're fun. So neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to expand and grow, like literally, physically, physiologically grow and change because of your thoughts and your habits and interventions. So you do it naturally, but through interventions. And so one of the things I love most when I've learned the most is when I was having fun. So, and I love having fun. I worked in the emergency department for 22 years. I've seen tragedy and all sorts of heartbreak and some wonderful things too. It's not all horrible, of course. And I've worked in memory care for another 25 years, and at the same time owned those care homes. And there's just a lot you can give to anyone, for a certain thing you have. Maybe you're already in cognitive decline, or maybe you're an executive and you want to make sure you stay sharp. There's lots of what's the best thing right now. But one of the things I do is, for sure, I do a morning and an evening routine, because it makes and breaks your morning, which is kind of funny because they always found Jesus. Everyone got up and they're, where is he again?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then he was always out late too. And I think we should meditate as well. I think that's something as Christians, we don't focus on meditation, and we're supposed to meditate on the scriptures and take time. First of all, and then another thing, just kind of on top of that and aside, and I will not probably stop talking very well because I'm an author and I write a bunch of stuff and I don't get to talk about it. But the point is that right now in our world, we are bombarded with information, and our neuroplasticity is formed from all the information coming in through your senses. And our senses are taking in more information than our grandfather did in his entire lifetime. We can do in about 10 minutes today. Yeah. It's just all over us. We're always on our phones and the billboards and being able to drive and move and communicate, and it's everywhere. 5,000 channels and all the nonsense. So one of the things I like to do is a good morning routine and a good evening routine, but a simple thing is I like cross brain exercises, because you can do a lot of things that I'm not very good at is left brain stuff, and then right brain stuff I'm really good at, kind of a thing, right? So being creative, if I could just do left and right brain exercises, things like that. So there's scores of them to do, and those are, I think, the easiest. You can do them with your hands and your body. It's like calisthenics instead of going to the gym. You can just do it wherever you're at, and it's simple and it's easy, and those are the things I like the most. But there's lots of them, but those kind of cross brain exercises are brilliant, and that's why we have so many of them on over51.com. It's just walk you through simple things and make you smarter.
Wow, nice. Well, we're gonna have that link below. Over 50, I think over 50, we'll probably have other links for you as well below. So if anything, like you're listening to this or you're watching this and anything like pops out at you, I want to learn more about that, make sure that you hit one of those links that'll either be in the show notes or somewhere around this video. You will find the links to dive deeper than even we are in this interview to what Stu is providing. I want to bring up one thing, something that I love that I feel like keeps my brain sharp is golf, right?
100%. That's the number one thing to keep your brain sharp is golf, by far and away.
Well, I'm glad that is one of my favorite things to do, even though I do it horribly. Cool. Is going to help keep my brain sharp.
I'm a hacker. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I went to school in San Diego. We had this 3-club golf. It was a putter and a driver and just a chipper kind of a thing. And man, but you had to run from hole to hole. And I was young and played sports, and it was great. I was good at that. But regular golf, I'm with you.
Yeah. I have to spend a lot on golf balls between trying to find them in the woods or in the water.
Right.
But it's a lot of fun. I love being outside. I love the competitive, even though it depends on who I'm with, whether it's competitive or not. Yeah. But yeah, I love it. Speaking of a skill such as golf, which both of us probably could improve on, it sounds like. What is one skill that you would love to master that you don't currently?
Oh, well, I'm a communicator, right? So I live here in California, and my Spanish is pretty ugly, but it's sort of doable or passable or whatever. But I know German and French. My Nana really was the one who kind of instilled this in me. She was a nurse, traveled the world 9 times, circumnavigated the world 9 times as a hospital nurse or a nurse on a hospital ship. And she spoke like 6 or 7 languages fluently and Latin and things like that. So my kids took Latin in school, and I learned a little Latin from that. But I would like to learn Mandarin. I think that just being able to communicate with 1 billion people I don't know. I like it. I lean towards that, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard that is one of the hardest languages to learn, though.
Yep.
And with that being said, when we're talking about improving your brain function as you get older, I would imagine that learning languages would be one of those things that kind of stretches your brain. Is that one of those things?
100%, Doug. Yep, you're right on the money. Learning new languages, anytime you can expand your brain and learn new things, whether it's the banjo or the piano or a language or just like a simple dance routine, like, you know, the line dancing at country music places,
Yeah.
right? So those kind of things, just simple things like that. Yeah, learn anything new, learn something new every day. A word for sure, but learn anytime you can add more input, it increases the neuroplasticity availability, right? So if you can just learn something, that's great. But if you can speak it while you read it, if you can speak it and write it down with a pencil or instead of typing it on a computer, so you can, there's lots of things you can do that are just simple, easy, normal daily tasks that really improve neuroplasticity. And you can pick one thing you really like and add enhancements to it. So, yep, you can get sharper real quick. I don't know about real quick because everyone kind of learns on their own. That was a bit of a misspeak on my part, but you can increase your neuroplasticity very effectively at your pace. Right.
I didn't really think I was going to go here this soon, but this just came to mind. Let's just talk about technology, and I think it's relevant because we had the technical difficulties at the beginning of the interview. I think that technology is a double-edged sword because, and let me kind of give you an example. As far as when it comes to learning, we have all kinds of new ways to learn and all kinds of new stuff to learn, right? But when you look at, I was going through my phone earlier today, and I saw this ad. I don't think it was an ad, but it was someone who had just gotten these earphones that you put in your ear, and it will translate the language of the people speaking next to you, right?
I just saw that yesterday myself.
That's a crutch.
Cool. Yeah.
But it's very cool, but that keeps you from having to actually learn the language.
Welcome AI. You don't even have to return an email anymore. You don't have to think of the words to put into an email, which we send like 100 of them a day, right? Or a text message. So, hey, I'm with you. Yep.
So it's very
great. We can do a lot.
Just back to
but I tell you, if you don't think it's not making you more stupid, simple things. When I was a kid, I knew 50 phone numbers because your phone was hooked to a house somewhere else, right? When you called somebody, you called a place, right? Not a pocket. And now I don't, my own kids, they're just on my phone. I just push a button and I call them. I don't even know their phone numbers because I don't need to. And because you don't need to, you don't. And your brain forgets it. It's called neuroplasticity term is pruning, synaptic pruning. And it's both actually synaptic pruning is one thing at the synapse. And then in neuroplasticity, you can also prune the actual neural pathway. And you can do that intentionally, right? Very, very easily. So the synaptic pruning is more natural. So anyway, the point is, if you don't use it, you lose it. And if you have 1,000 things in the cloud, so you don't have to remember them, good, because you won't. Right? And so, that's a big thing is when I started writing books, I thought I'm an author. No, the book is just content, I was told on the interweb. They said, no, it's content. You're a content creator. You're not an author. I'm like, well, I like to package my content in a book. Right? I was trying to argue with them, but they weren't having it. And so now I'm a content person, right? Well, you don't have to know very much to create content because the masses of information in the libraries across the world are all at your fingertips on your phone, literally. And if you don't research it, you don't know it, and so you spout stuff off and things like that. But if you don't have to learn something, so being a content creator or being a content marketer, it turned out that people want easy, fast, simple, painless. Well, I hope you don't think learning is painful and hard and difficult and takes a long time, because it doesn't have to. But if that's your belief system, then you won't want to learn more and increase your memory and just have a stronger neuroplasticity for your brain. So it's a two-edged sword, but it's more like a two-edged military. It's a big, fat, blunt instrument that just comes over and just decimates everything in its path. And to remember something is much more difficult than to learn it.
Yeah. Wow. Um, and I just want to reference something that you said in there. Um, I relate a lot of what you do with your mind as the same thing that you do with your body. If you want to grow with your mind or your body, you're going to have to get uncomfortable and maybe go through a little bit of pain, right, in order to grow. And
Sure.
that it's not maybe not physical pain when you're using your mind, but it is that uncomfortable of not knowing something and struggling with it for a little bit, that you're growing, right? So,
Yep. Yep, for sure. And there is that, mental fatigue where,
mm,
I'll try and, chop out, 2 chapters of an outline or something like that. And, by the end of the evening too, it's way later. I'm like, whoa, my brain feels tired, kind of a thing. And it can definitely get that way. Luckily, the brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it
mm,
gets, and the more capacity it has, and the faster it becomes, the quicker the responses and things like that. But you need to know, just like you do working out, how the brain works. Like, how a muscle works, so you do
mhm.
resistance exercises and things like that. But do you know how the brain works and the neurology behind it? Then you can just simply do brain training exercises, which is always kind of a corny term for neuroplasticity because it's so they've just nailed this thing down. They're right. I mean, the research on neuroplasticity is blowing up like one a day. Huge
Mm.
research just coming to light, just breakthroughs in it. So very fun, very fun niche to be a part of. But yeah, you gotta want to learn, and it kind of, I'm being soft. It isn't kind of nothing. It seems to me that people want it quick and easy and fast, and
Mhm.
they don't want any pain, and they want something for nothing. And I'm not sure if you realize this in life, but there's ways to make things easier and be more efficient and be smarter at learning things. But you don't get anything for nothing. There's
That's right.
always you always got to put some effort, energy, time, and that's what it starts with your values, and that's what you value,
Mm,
right? Where
mhm.
you put your money, where you put your time, and where you put your energy, your actions. That's what you value. I don't
Yeah.
care what you say. I can tell you what your values are by where you spend your money, where you spend your time, and where you spend your energy.
Oh, so true. Um, this just came to mind. I don't know if I'm going to get to many of the questions that I actually sent you because this just came to mind of something else that you said. Um, Mental fatigue. I would love your insights on how you feel. I think I have an opinion on this. I'll let you know once you start sharing. Um, we have so much stimuli in today's world. So, do you feel like mental fatigue happens much faster today than it did, say, 20 years ago?
Um, yeah, in a way I do, and I know that's a little bit of a political rub-a-dub answer, but in a way I do, and
Yeah.
if I could explain it this way, um, my kids, I have 4 beautiful kids, and I know everyone thinks their kids are beautiful, but mine are more beautiful than yours, and so. And my kids grew up with iPads. I mean, they didn't
Mm,
have a library. I remember the year the library was taken out of the school that we sent them to.
mm,
And I enjoyed paying taxes for your public school and also paying tuition for my kids' school. And that was okay with me. But we lost the library. And I thought, how in the world are they going to do this? This is ridiculous. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. And then all the kids, they brought home iPads. I'm like, well, honestly, the first thing I thought of was, how much did that cost me? But the
mm,
next thing I thought of was, holy smokes, you got the entire library of the world on this thing. And it was just,
mhm,
eye opening. And they have a higher threshold of how
mm,
much information they can take in, especially like social media type stuff. But it is not better because they have a higher threshold before they feel fatigue. That's not necessarily a good
mm.
thing, but they do. Okay, and and our grandparents don't, if any of them are still alive. Like
Yeah.
they have a very low threshold for all the noise on social media or in the world. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, yep, you're absolutely right. But everyone has their what they're comfortable with, and our
Uh,
kids are way more comfortable with what they can deal with than we are. And I
yeah.
think maybe they have smaller attention spans because of it. But I don't
Mm,
have any actual, neuroscientific proof to that. But there's a lot of things that show in that direction. But there's not anything that I can point to and go, look, there it is. But that's my opinion. I have one of those for sure. Ask anyone.
nice,
That's my
nice,
opinion.
nice. Um, So the last thing I'll say about that, and then we will go into the fill in the blank question, which is kind of a staple of the interview, is I think
Okay.
I think it really matters more today than ever, the ability to focus
Okay.
because of all the external stimuli. And I think I think if you can master anything as a young person now, that would be one of the key things, is because you're hit with so many different things. If you can focus on one thing more so than the student next to you, you're probably going to prosper. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And
so
yeah, I
go ahead.
agree. I mean, that's a huge the ability to focus is in when farmers, right? In like, I grew up in a little farm town, right? And you sit in a combine all day and just, I mean, there was nothing to do. You were
Yep.
hypnotized to it, just like driving to work,
Hmm. Yep.
right? And that being hypnotized, which is a very accurate term for it, by the way, and that just that unconscious ability to drive to work without thinking about what your foot's doing on the brake or the clutch or the gears or the blinker or the other traffic around you or all the millions of inputs that you can take, a million inputs you can take on a 5-minute journey on the freeway, right? I mean, probably more than a million. But so, yeah, your attention span is always just dulled naturally. Your
Mm-hmm.
brain wants to do this. Your brain is a deletion machine. It says, is this, it takes in information. It says, is this important? It makes a decision on it. And 99% of everything, which is amazing because that's the same amount of stuff we worry about, is it's not
Yep.
this not worth thinking of. That's why when you go out and you buy a new car, a new red sports car, right, and you drive it home, you see 1,000 new red sports cars, right? They were
Yep.
always there, but your brain, your reticular activating system said, hey, this isn't important. But when you bought the car, it was important, and then your brain started seeing them everywhere, and so they were always there. And so your brain is a natural deletion machine. But that bringing in that's helpful if we're just driving a train of horses, or where our lizard brain is working on fight or flight, or is that a saber-tooth tiger again? He just
Yep.
got angered.
Yep.
Like, stay away from that. But it's not so good when you're being bombarded with millions of bits of information, constantly falling asleep with your phone on, waking up and checking your email. It is fatiguing on the brain, and you lose the ability to focus and concentrate on a specific object, because it's just your habit is taking in millions of things and bouncing back and forth. Easy to fix, but easy to fall into that habit, because you never sit down and go, boy, I really want to make a good habit of going to the gym or something like that, right? That's just
Yeah.
a goal you set. Habits
Yep.
are done automatically. Your brain
Yep.
makes them automatically without your help, without you knowing it. It's just, you don't think about tying your shoe or opening a door. You know, it's just,
Yep.
it's a habit.
Yep.
So yeah, you're the third thing, the third part of that, which is, I know I've gone over, but the third part
No,
of
it's
that
all
is that
good.
the underlying part is your autonomic nervous system, which is selfishness. Right? Isn't that amazing? That's probably the fall of man right there, right? God
Yep.
said, okay, you ate the apple, huh? I'm gonna change it. Right? He just on one thing, he changed everything, right? But you when you wake up in the morning, or Doug, you are probably like me and everyone else in the world, where last night you fell asleep and
Yep.
not once did you think about your heart beating, which
Nope.
is super important. I mean, that should be a focus for you. Seriously, Doug, get a hold of your blood pressure here, bro, right? And your diaphragm's going up and down, which is making your lungs expand and contract, which is bringing air in and out, which is changing the process of the oxygen going through the bloodstream and the blood barrier, and your whole systems are working, and you never thought about it once. A million things going on while you're asleep. And you're naturally selfish. When you wake up in the morning, you don't think about brushing my teeth. I wish you would, Doug, but you don't. And you don't, when you look at a school reunion picture, you look at your own picture first. You're naturally inclined. Your brain is built around taking care of you first. So you put a short attention span with a selfish, innate nature. Wonder where we heard that first 2,000 years ago, right? Wonder where we heard that. We're just a bunch of selfish, right? And then you bombard that with a million pieces of information. You need a plan, right? If that's the situation that you're under, like you and me and everyone breathing right now, that's you need a plan to slow your brain down, to let it detoxify and just and focus on something and get some perspective on things. which is huge. Your perspective is how your brain judges something and makes a decision on something is from your brain's perspective. You don't get that unless you just take a breath and meditate like Jesus did in the morning and in the evening. Right? Meditate
Yeah.
on scripture. Meditate
Oh,
on something. Just stop for a second, right?
yeah.
So that's not the shortest answer in the world, but
No, I love it. And I love that you use the word detox, because we often think about that with our physical body, right? Like, oh, I've eaten so much junk food. Like we were like, if we travel, it's hard to get good food when you travel. It's usually, you're eating fast food and there's few options. So when we travel, sometimes I feel like, okay, now I need a detox. I need to eat just
yeah,
chicken and rice for
right.
days, right?
Like driving through Vegas. You
Yeah.
want to take a shower after.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that you brought that reference to, we often have to detox our mind. Sometimes we take in a lot of bad information or information that's not good for us. And sometimes we like, maybe we take a social media detox, because maybe the stuff in our feed, in our social media feeds that are feeding that that's that bad information that we need to detox from. So I love that you brought that up.
Well, and Doug, to emphasize just how on track you are and how insightful that was, the average 12-year-old in the average American U.S. school, just average public school, average 12-year-old male, man, little boy, 12 years old, young adult, whatever, adolescent. If it was me, it was like the scrawny one. 20 semi-soft pornographic images. 20 by noon. By the time the kid eats lunch at public school, he has seen 20 at least on the average semi-pornographic, soft pornographic images.
Wow.
20.
Wow.
You're 12. Yeah, time
That's
to
crazy.
detox.
Yeah, time to
I mean, in
detox
the
for
first
sure.
century, there wasn't all that going on, right? There's just Romans trying to kill you, man. Romans
Yeah.
trying to kill you, and then one of these priests over here is trying to spout out that the gold on top of the temple is more important than your word, than having integrity, right? And
Yeah.
Jesus is like, you're a bunch of hypocrites, right? So other than those two things to worry about, maybe fishing or something like that. I'm hungry. I'm going to walk down the river. I'm going to pick a piece of fruit. There wasn't all this stuff going on, and yet still, Jesus took time to meditate every day.
Yep.
You think? And I
Yep.
don't know. We think about this thing like kind of as Christians. Sometimes I think we kind of can eat our own young. We're just like always ready to be defensive or be judgmental or gossip about something. And it's just, hey, meditate, calm your mind, think on scripture, pray, be prayerful in it, but meditate, calm your mind every day, or don't.
And suffer the consequences.
There's all sorts of wonderful things in the future, right? I mean, there's things you can do to prepare, and you can do it or not. It's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very, very true. Now I am going to ask the fill in the blank question. So your fill in the blank question is: entrepreneurship is like blank. You need blank to truly succeed and grow.
That's right. That's right. So I think, of course, this is where I grew up, but I think entrepreneurship is like being a farmer, right? And I think you really need to understand the idea that you got to sow first before you reap, right? As farmers, nobody sits down and tells that to a farmer. Dude, if you grew up on a farm, everybody knows this. Fall, summer, spring, right? You're always working your butt off, right?
Yep.
The cows never 365, 24 hours a day, right? And you gotta put that work into it, energy in, energy out. So good input in, good input out. So same for your brain. But yeah, I think entrepreneurship is like being a farmer, and you need to put that good harvest in to get to reap that, or you need to put that good seed in to reap that harvest benefit in the future.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of patience in there, right? There's an element of
That's right.
patience, because as soon as you plant the seed, the crop doesn't plop up, right? Sometimes you have to cultivate. There's a lot of in the process, and just entrepreneurship. There's probably a lot in your process that needs to be done before the fruit can, or the fruit or the corn or whatever you want to call it, comes out of the ground, right?
Yeah, and the whole process is a miracle. It's a dead piece of corn or a dead piece of wheat.
Yeah,
right? It's dead. You put it in the ground, you put water on it, you put fertilizer around it, things like that, and it creates life. the oxygen molecule comes together and it starts to grow, and then photosynthesis happens and it creates energy within the cell, and it duplicates and replicates, and you have a growing plant of corn that you can eat, right? And that go back into the ground because corn has so much nitrogen in it. If you cut it down, there's no nitrogen in the ground. But so you put it back in. But the point is, it's a miracle.
Mhm.
Now, if you were to go out and work and work and work and plant the field and plant 100 acres and really put all the seed in it and all the dirt and all the fertilizer and tend to it and get the weeds out of it, you would be surprised if you didn't get a result. It's a miracle, but you expect that result from that. Now, if you don't do anything, you can expect nothing. But I got to tell you, if you do something, you can expect something.
Yep.
Right? Multiplied, folded over, shaken together.
That's right.
In abundance,
That's
right? So,
be careful
so for sure.
One other thing that you said in there was, we could talk about this for a minute too, is pulling the weeds, right? Because oftentimes, even though we've planted the seed, it's not done. We still have to pull the weeds, and there's a lot of things in entrepreneurship, shiny object syndrome being one of them. Maybe that's a weed you need to pull, and focus, right? So there's all kinds of things, and that's why it's good to have something like what you do to help keep you mentally sharp, but also kind of good to have a mentor or a coach or somebody to help you. Sometimes you can't even see the weeds.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right. That's just, again, you just got to look to the instruction book. What did Jesus do? He got 12 disciples. He became a mentor.
Yep. Exactly.
This is not rocket science. Thank God, because I can't do rocket science, right?
That's right.
Yep, but yeah, 100%. You're going to learn a lot more from someone walking you through, which is the difference, right? You sit down, you read something, you learn it, and then you apply it, make mistakes, and you learn from your mistakes. That's learning. Learn from your mistakes, right? Wisdom is learning from someone else's mistakes.
Yeah.
Getting a mentor, having them walk you through it. And so you don't make the same mistakes. You get to make new mistakes, but you get to build those mistakes on the shoulders of someone else, right?
Yeah.
100%. Super, super important. I pity the fool who tries to
Mr.
search
T.
the interweb for solutions on anything you're looking for. Crocheting, right? Yeah, you can watch 1,000 videos, but there's no one like grandma sitting next to you going, no, dear, it's knit one, purl two. I mean, it's just something with a hands-on approach, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Very insightful, Doug.
One last thing that I also want to touch on before we get too far, because you've said a couple things that make me think of this. How you talked about the growing of crops being a miracle. You talked about our bodies and all the things we don't even have to think about that happen. And I want to give praise to the Creator for these things that we don't even have to think about, but they just happen because He's such a great Creator.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And we found through neuroscience that being grateful improves your neuroplasticity.
Ooh.
And if you're breathing and you can't find something to be grateful for, then man, your focus is in the wrong spot. Your perspective and your focus is all messed up, and that's time to get that mentor.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's way different perspectives out there. But yeah, you should be waking up grateful every morning. You should be waking up with a compelling reason every morning, because your life is rudderless without it.
Even when you think times are tough, which you're gonna have tough times in life, no matter who you are.
Right.
There is something to be grateful for.
Yeah. And be careful what you think times are tough, right? Because tough times are like problems need to be solved. But for every job you've ever interviewed for, or every business you've started, or every course you've studied for, you are trying to solve a problem.
Yeah,
so solving problems is not a problem, right?
That's right. I don't know if you've seen the video, but I recently saw a video where the guy was talking about every time he went to his boss, he told him about the problem or something that he was going through, and he said, good. Kept going back to him, told him another problem, good. And he's like, why do you keep telling me it's good? It's not good. It is good because you're growing, you're going to learn how to solve this problem.
Technical difficulties with a podcast are a good thing because you have a podcast.
Exactly. Yes. Very, very true. Very true.
Going out and looking for stuff to have problems with, right? I hope, right? Different problems at a $10 million company than a $100 million company. I want to solve those problems at some point, right? You better
Yep.
be searching for problems.
Yep.
You got to
Yep.
change your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
what I'm supposed to
I
do,
I
right?
agree wholeheartedly. Now we're going to get to actually what I call the we've covered so much already, but we're going to get to what I actually call is like the heart of the interview. And that's where you kind of share your story with us. Kind of tell us how you got into what you're doing now, and maybe even how your faith played a role in any of it. But kind of bring us, wherever you want to start, and kind of get us to where you are.
Okay. Well, it probably won't take this long, but I was born
Nice.
in a small little farm community, 800 people, little farm town. And very similar to where I live right now, off the coast of California. I'm right here. You can see Mavericks Beach right here from my house, and we're a little farming community on the coast of California. Very, very, very small. And that's where I grew up. And when I was 5 years old, my Nana came from London to live with us in the United States, and it was awesome. But my mom she took me by the hand and she sat me down on her bed, which was a big deal. And she said, "Stu, I need your help taking care of Nana." And at 5 years old, I thought, I can take care of Nana. I'm a babysitter, but Nana was my babysitter. But I didn't really approach it that way. That wasn't my perspective at 5 years old. But Nana was more than a babysitter. She was my best friend. She could tell a story that would mesmerize everyone. She was urbane, sophisticated. She spoke, like I said, 5, 6 languages. She was super smart. She trained nurses for a living. She'd lived through the war. She'd seen the world. She was amazing, amazing person. And when I was 10, my dad died. And he's like 42. My dad passed away. And that was 3 weeks after my 10th birthday. And that same summer in July, Nana, we left church and we couldn't find Nana anywhere. And after an hour, the entire congregation, I found Nana in the back of the wrong car, and she was starting to be confused. And very quickly, within 6 months, dementia decimated her. She couldn't remember me. It was very difficult. It was very difficult, and I learned a lot. And I learned that we didn't know a lot about cognitive health and dementia and things like that at a very young age. Now, at that time, at 10 to 12, after Nana passed away, I didn't I'm going to go and solve the world's neuroplasticity problems. That didn't happen. But that definitely laid the groundwork for when I went to school. I got a degree in business. And that summer, my freshman year in college, I became an EMT. And when I finished college, I worked as an EMT and a paramedic, and then worked in the emergency department for 22 years in the emergency department, treating and triaging patients and seeing folks at their peak of stress and overwhelm and pain and family members and just all that, right? Just an incredible experience. When I started at the hospital, I also started my memory care facility. So I opened my first one then back about 25 years ago. And I worked specifically with families, mostly mothers, mostly daughters of mothers with dementia. But anybody needed a place to stay, right? If you needed my care home, you had memory troubles, we of course make a spot for you. But the mostly is we just worked with those folks, and I just worked with dementia patients and dementia providers. And so that's why my first book is Dementia Care Solutions. It's neuroplasticity solutions for treating someone or caring for someone with Alzheimer's disease. And that is, I don't even know if my Nana had Alzheimer's. I don't know what kind of dementia she had, but that's where we started. And then from there, you write a book, right? And then someone says, "Oh man, that's really cool. Can you come talk to us about that?" So you go and give a talk or 2 or 3. And then finally a CEO walks up and says, "Well, that's really cool information. Can you coach me on this?" And for years I said, not years, but for a long time I said, "Yes, I can coach you on that." And then I found that consultants make more money than coaches. So I'd no longer coach. I'm a consultant. And so the CEO walks up and says, "Hey, the company has this huge fund and we have this training available for me, and we, consult me." And so we do that. And it's just one thing has led to another. But we mostly, we still only do the one thing. We do neuroplasticity solutions for cognitive longevity. And we do that with books. Our newsletter, of course, is a huge, just focused information, step-by-step processes and things like that. We do that with our YouTube channel, which is just step after step guide. And we do that, of course, the whole focus and kind of all the content that we do all flows into over51.com, which is a clearinghouse of resources and information free. Everything I would do for you, Doug, as an executive or a founding entrepreneur, something like that, and you ran a $10 million or $100 million company, everything I would do with you personally is right there online. Every step, every white paper, every checklist, little ebooks, video courses, tutorials, everything's available. It's a clearinghouse. It's a movement for executives and entrepreneurs over 51 to talk and to understand what each other's going through and what worked for you and what didn't work for me, and just a community, but more than a community, really a movement of people who are interested in improving their neuroplasticity, over 51 executives and entrepreneurs over 51, improving their neuroplasticity so that they have that cognitive longevity. And that's kind of where we ended up right here. About a year ago, we started doing podcasts, and it was so much fun that I don't do near as much else. I love doing podcasts, but we're also at the place where if you want to book us for a keynote speech, we give a keynote speech on Thursday. We arrive on Wednesday because I like being fresh when I get there. And maybe we'll even show up on Tuesday, and we just make everything into a little mini vacation. And so, I don't know, 30, 40 times a year, we'll just go all over the world and just and take a little mini vacation, and then just give a keynote talk in the middle of it, or maybe a workshop or something like that. So that's where we've landed on the whole thing, and just having a lot of fun and really being able to help. I mean, just help a lot of people, like Power, Influence, and Purpose. My latest book that's coming out here this next month is it's 10 chapters, but it's 10 exceptional people. I mean, we have a Guinness Book of World Record holder.
Wow.
Paddleboarded across the Atlantic Ocean, 93 days.
Wow.
No ships, no supplies, no reef. By himself, this man paddleboarded across the Atlantic Ocean for 93 days, 3 months. Like incredible feats, right? We have a lady in a Silicon Valley exit who started Sea Hugger and is getting the plastic out of the ocean and suffered breast cancer and just was fearless through the whole thing. I mean, actually not fearless, very, very fearful, but courageous through the whole thing, and just was bold and courageous in the face of fear. Where have I heard that before? Like in the instruction manual, huh?
Yeah.
And so that it's just full of those kind of things, and each one of those people have 100,000 people following them. So the book's going to get like 1 million views before it even goes on sale, right?
Wow.
And so it's a really it's just a position that we've really been blessed to be in, that we can really affect a lot of people's lives with simple, easy to do neuroplasticity solutions, and just to improve your cognitive longevity. And it's just been like a retirement thing that just is more fun than working. I work more hours at it than I would if I had a job, but I love it. So that's where I landed here.
A couple of things from listening to your story. It is, to me, it's the timeless entrepreneur story where a large percentage of entrepreneurs come from, is they experience something like you did with your Nana, and then in the future it has become your mission, right? And I think that's so amazing. Question about the number 50. Why 51? Was there a significance to 51?
No.
Okay.
I was on whois.com, right? And where I buy my domains, and over 50 was taken.
Okay, nice. Yeah, well,
I went over 51, but it really has worked out really well because there's so much stuff on over 50 that it kind of just is a big blue ocean, right? The book, blue ocean, and so it's like this big. But over 51 is just a little bit like, that's me or that's not, or I don't know. We've just had really good luck with it. It's been very, very well received. And so,
nice. Yeah. I'm glad that you answered that. And it's just about being adaptable, right?
Sure.
And that's what we have to do as entrepreneurs. When the exact thing that we might have wanted, we don't give up. We just pivot, right? And we find the next, the actually might even be better solution. It might be the next best solution. It might be the best solution. Because like you said, it was a big blue ocean at the over 50 thing. So why not stand out rather than wade in those waters, right?
Yeah. And I lose 12 months, but and really a lot of the interventions that we use, you're super neuroplastic when you're a kid. It's about in your 20s or around puberty or so that you become less neuroplastic, and that's on purpose because you'd be autistic or have autistic tendencies if you just had all this input coming in all the time. So it's really, your brain, your body, the creator knew what he was doing when he made you. Yes, that is a specific personhood that made you. There is an entity out there, a consciousness.
Nice.
For Pete's sake, just go ahead and bite the bullet. No, it's God, right?
That's right. There's
a lot of folks that have said they're God. There's a lot of folks, but there's only one that said he was the son of God and proved it. And there's more proof of that than there's Pat standing on some beach somewhere saying we'll be back. So I'm telling you, the key to neuroplasticity is having the ability to create a destiny, because we're all going to have a destiny. We're all going to end up somewhere, right? And for sure, I don't know about taxes, but for sure you're going to die.
Yep.
I know that. But I'm here to tell you, I worked in emergency medicine for 22 years. You're going to die. Don't tell that to a patient in the ER.
Right.
Just for the general use, we should all kind of have that perspective. And if that's the case, you are going to have a destiny, a destination that you arrive at in life before you die. And if you haven't planned that out, if you're just walking through life and you don't have a map to your destiny, well, then you will not have a legacy of impact. But if you have a well-planned destiny or a well-planned route to a destiny or destination, you can have significant impact in your legacy, right?
Yeah.
So it's not rocket science. It's just, we only do one thing. It's just simple stuff.
I think that goes back. I want to ask you the secret question just a second, because that's another staple of the interview. I want to make sure that we get to, but you just keep saying great things that I want to talk about.
Okay, thank you.
You talked about legacy, and I think that's why a lot of times, even with our clients, we really stress that why, because that why is what gets you through, right? Your destiny, if you will. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Because if it gets tough, you're going to give up unless you have that why. So I'm 100%. Glad that you touched on that.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah, I would say have a big why, why. I mean, sit down and think of reasons why, right? And then have a very simple way to be consistent. My dad was a baseball coach. I never got to play with him because, like I said, he passed away when I was 10. But he was a baseball coach, and he always said, the key to success in life and in baseball is consistency, doing it again and again. He was a Marine Corps. My dad was in the Marines, like a big deal in the Marine Corps. We'll just put it that way. So anyway, and he said consistency is key. Consistency is key to success or whatever you want to do in life. And then he'd always say the key to consistency is simplicity. If you don't keep it simple, you won't do it and you won't be consistent at it. Keep it simple, be consistent. And just break it down to small chunks, and you can't do everything. I'm overwhelmed every day. I don't do everything every day because there's not enough time in the day to do everything. But I don't feel overwhelmed because I take the few things that I can do, and I'm consistently acting on those. And so, have a big why and be consistent in your actions.
Yeah, I love that. And just to expand a little bit on what you said, those things that you're consistent in, those need to be the needle movers, right? The other things, if they don't get done, if they don't necessarily move the needle, that's okay that they don't get done. But it's the things that are going to move the needle are the things that's most important to be consistent in. So
100% moving that needle. That's why we start the book. The first 2 chapters are fear and failure. Now, fear is a built-in neurological response, fight or flight, saber-toothed tiger, lizard brain, whatever you want to call it, God's blessing, whatever you want to say, right? But that is ingrained in your head. That's in your brain, right? Fear, right? Yep. You cannot overcome it, but you can eliminate it rather, but you can't overcome it. You can actually use it as a very powerful force in your life. The other is failure. Now, failure is learned. When you're 2 years old or 1 year old or whenever it was that you just decided to walk, you failed 34 times a day, 1,000 times a month, 1,000 times a month. And you never said, oh gosh, I'm just not gonna walk, right? And someone said, someone leaned over to your dad and said, well, your kid's not walking. I guess he's not going to walk. And your dad doesn't say, yeah, I know. He's just not going to get it.
He's
Right?
going to crawl his entire life.
My kid's going to keep trying until he walks. Everybody says that. We all do that, right? Failure is a learned process. Failure is a learned behavior, right? That look from your stern look from someone that's important to you in your life, mom or dad or something like that, that's not right or something. And that will form your beliefs around failure. Now, there's no such thing as failure. There are mistakes. You learn from your mistakes. Wisdom is learning from someone else's mistakes, but you will fail in life, but not really. If you fail forward, like John Maxwell says. So, and that's, that's the key. If you can overcome fear and overcome failure, you're about 90% or about 80% of the way there, Doug. And then it falls right in line, just perfectly with like just bowling pins for it.
Yeah. Wow. Now let me ask the secret question, and I feel like you may have already answered it, maybe even a couple times, but we'll ask it anyway. What is the secret to rewiring your brain for long-term cognitive health and preventing memory decline as you age?
Well, the good news is the secret. It's not secret, so that's handy, right? But what we found is the next book coming out is called 102 Years. It's the biography of Gigi Portman. She's 102 years, and Doug, she's sharper. She's more neuroplastic than you and I. She's amazing woman, and there's these very key traits in her life that we've been able to pick up, and that's the problem I'm having, is that I got a book launch right now, and I got this book I just got to get out because it's so cool, and she's 102 years old. So timing is kind of important when you're 102 years old. There's more days behind you for sure, right? So, and we found that she was a very calm person. She didn't do a morning, 102 years ago, she didn't do a morning routine. She just had a morning routine that was very peaceful. And she was in a place where she could pause and think and write things down. She had very deep relationships, which is the second thing that we found was very, very impressive with her. She ate organic food 102 years ago. We all ate organic food, right? And so she ate organic food. She had very strong relationships, and she learned she knows like 5 languages and plays the piano or something like that. So she just happened to fall in a category where she didn't get a disease like heart disease or diabetes or cancer or something that kills 80% of us. And we're going to die of that. Doug, you and I are going to die of heart disease or diabetes or cancer or one of the big ones, right? The top 5, 80% is top 5. If you can live past that, 80 years old, 90 years old, which she did, and have the same background she had of all this, we call neuroplasticity reserve. And I say, I shouldn't really say it that way. We don't call it that at all. I call it that because neuroscientists have worked and slaved over fixing things and learning things and understanding things, and I've just learned from them. I'm not a neuroscientist. So, but the neuroscientists learned that because of her relationships, because of her food habits, because of the habits she formed because of her lifestyle that was slower and easier. She is super neuroplastic because of that. So we can point to a number of things, and they're all lifestyle choices, which is good because your brain creates habits automatically around your lifestyle. So use your own neurology to intelligently create habits that are empowering for your destiny.
Yes.
I'm telling you, I'm a farm kid on the coast of California. This is not rocket science. This is super easy to do. It's just small, simple, consistent steps. One time.
You just gave a blueprint. This lady's life is kind of like a blueprint. I heard meditate in there, probably on scripture. I heard relationships. Have strong relationships because I think as human beings we need those. Eat well, right? We could go political on our whole food system in the United States, but we won't.
Except that it's built upside down to give you diabetes. But other than that, I won't go political on it at all.
Yeah. We could talk at length about about the food system.
A
And
lot
how
of things about the government you and I could talk.
yes, yes.
I would like that. Do you fish? Let's go fish. You come
There
to
we go.
California, let's go fishing. We will
All
solve the
right.
world's problems. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was so
Yeah.
awesome, Doug. So I'll shut up.
Nice, nice. Let me just say I'm in favor of whatever RFK has planned for revamping our food system if he gets the ability to.
Yep.
All right, I lost my train of thought there, but yes, she gave the blueprint, right? A lot of things
Sure
that
did.
you said. If we just practice those things as well as we can, given the infrastructure that we live in, we too may be able to have the capacity that she still has.
It's certainly possible. For me, I'm 55, so for me, probably not as easy as it would be for my kids, which my youngest is 23. Oh, don't tell my wife. 23. So yeah, so 29 to 23. Yeah, that's them. That's them. Now I got it. And so they would improve more than we would. But yep, you sure can. And and when I say that, don't take that wrong at all. I have 75-year-old, 80-year-old entrepreneurs improving their neuroplasticity daily and coming and sending me a message saying, "Oh my goodness, Stu, this is just amazing." This one man talked about how his kids were always saying, "Dad, your butt is hanging out of the refrigerator again," because he'd open the refrigerator and forget what he was looking for. Have you ever walked into a room and forgot what you came in? I mean, we've all done that, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Stu, my bottom's not hanging out of the refrigerator anymore." I'm thinking,
Nice.
I'm going crazy. But yeah, the simple, consistent actions can have huge improvements very quickly, within days. If you're consistent, yeah, for
Nice.
sure. And the more important it is to you, the more important it is to your reticular activating system, the more important it is to your brain, the more your brain will naturally create habits around it, so that you just your brain is just wired for where you want it to go. It's not wired for success, like people say. It's wired to it's your decision where you want to go. It's wired for where you want to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You make decisions, you take actions, you go places.
Nice. The one thing I missed in mentioning in that blueprint that you said is she learned so many languages. It seemed like she was constantly learning. So constantly training your mind on something new, challenging it, is probably another staple of that. Let me ask you another question. For like, I think if you're a younger person listening to this, you see all the potential that you could have. If you're an older person, just kind of like Stu was alluding to, like there's still hope for you. It's not.
Yeah, loads of hope. Yeah.
Yeah. So all this information that we're going to provide links for will be below, so you can check that out. But I want to transition to kind of, when do you start to see this? What are some of the signs of cognitive decline?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, there's the early signs of cognitive decline, and then maybe a couple of exercises to help with that. They're often very subtle. Cognitive decline can be very subtle and overlooked, but so frequent forgetfulness, right? Misplacing items, trouble recalling, recent events, something like that. Difficulty multitasking, for instance, and it's a bit of a play on words, or it's not really accurate, because we don't multitask. Everything's on or off. Synaptic responses are on or off. So we don't ever multitask. You're just trying to concentrate on three things at once. It doesn't work very well. But difficulty doing that, because we all do, can show some signs of cognitive decline. Slower processing speeds, things like taking longer to recall an issue or a name or a face or a word, or even to solve problems or make decisions, or the crossword puzzle's taking longer, or the phone's ringing, you're not sure what to do with it. That's always one that but it's kind of too late by then. But it's a common thing. People with dementia will look at a phone and or they'll answer it and make things that don't make sense. So struggles with word recall is very big. Very big one. Struggle with word recall. So having words just on the tip of your tongue, but you can't get to them. Right now, a simple cure for that is, a lot of times we're like, who had the best batting average in, for the New York Yankees, and like, why would you care? But in 1932 or something, right? And it was, I can find that on my phone. Well, don't.
Hmm.
Right? If you know those kind of statistics, or you've read about that, you've learned about that, pause and think about it for a second. So there's ways to fix that very quickly, easily. Everything we do is easy. And then difficulty concentrating. So a lot of times difficulty concentrating will manifest itself in nervous condition. But if you're losing focus on what the task at hand, or you're losing focus on the conversation you're in, it makes you nervous. It tends to make you nervous, or confused, and then you're scared, and then you're not sure, and then you look nervous. And so those are the big ones. Those 5 are kind of the big ones. If you see something like that, then you want to go check with your neurologist, make an appointment with your doctor, and get checked for cognitive decline.
Wow. So let's talk about preventive before you get there, or even if you feel like you're there a little bit, reach out to Stu at the, I'm going to say it again, at this one of the links below. I had a bunch of questions, more questions for you, and maybe we have you on for a second time, but I feel like I'm not Joe Rogan, so we're not going to go 3-4 hours. We have the same hairstylist, but I'm not Joe Rogan.
What?
So
yeah, it's a great hairstyle.
Yeah. So
well, for sure, let's do it again. Yeah,
let's do that. But I do I want to thank you, first of all, for being here, Stu. And where can people go? We mentioned the links and things like that. Where can people go to find out more about what you have going on?
Right. So over51.com, right? Everything's available. You want to buy a book, it's over 51. You want to do a course, it's over 51. Courses are free, like I said. So over51.com is the big one. And LinkedIn, of course, LinkedIn, because I work with executives. And then the newsletter is super. You can go and join from over 51, or you can go to over 51. You can go over 51 and find the newsletter, because I can't think of the domain name right now off the top of my head. I'm having a neuroplasticity moment. Nice. Oh, that was awesome.
But it will be there,
so
because we will.
Right, we're not on a lot of social media, every little bit, but and then of course you can go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or the website, and buy a book, and then and then you can come have me speak at your event, or a place you can book that there too. So yeah, you kind of nailed it there, Doug. Over51.com is the hub for everything we do, and then it's all out and everywhere else. Like, it's not, over51.com is not LinkedIn, but you can get there from there.
Nice. I know you mentioned YouTube. Sure. You mentioned YouTube as well, so we'll include the YouTube link.
Thank you.
Question: who is the best candidate to that you work with?
So the best candidate I work with is somebody who, an entrepreneur, executive, founder of a company, something like that, over 51, that is interested in staying mentally sharp, making profitable business decisions. Key. Profitable business decisions, right? There's a neuroplastic intervention that we can do, so you will make better decisions. You'll be a better decision maker in all your life, right? There's 2 things that really we look for. One is, only because we get so much feedback from people that we want to make more money, we want to have 1 million subscribers, we want to have blah blah blah, whatever it is, right? But the big one, what people really, everybody constantly, like, I want to say every day, but it's not every day, but it's every week for sure, a couple times a week, somebody says, I got to find a way to have integrity in my relationships, in my work, and in my health, because I can devote time to one, and my work suffers, or my health suffers, or my health is fine, but my work suffers, and they are searching for integrity for relationships, for their work, and for their health. So that's a big thing. The second thing we always look for is someone who believes that they can. So you can improve your neuroplasticity, you can expand your memory, you can recall things easier, you can make better decisions in business, but not if you don't believe it. Like, oh gosh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I'm super successful at what I do because I work with people who want to change. So if you don't want to change, read up, right? Maybe go to the website, read the book, and you'll be inspired to change. because we're all going to get there. But those are folks that kind of have that bigger perspective. Like, it's not just about my money or my corporation or running this business or having a good C-suite, get together or workshop, but it's my relationships, it's my work, and it's my health. And then I can do it. And that's who I work with. And luckily, there's a ton of them. I mean, there's more people than you can. There's more people than you can work with.
Yeah.
So,
I imagine they didn't get there by being I can't do it kind of people, right? They are can do kind of people by nature. Otherwise, unless they've just been it's their dad's company and they just kept getting pushed up towards the top.
Right. Dad builds it. The next one, stabilizes it, and the next one ruins it when he buys the G6 jet. But yeah, you're 100% there, Doug. We are, right here. We're 20 miles from San Francisco, south of San Francisco on the coast here. And so we are in the heart of Silicon Valley. You go over the little hill behind my house, and it's Google. It's the Stanford University campus. It's Silicon Valley. It's right there. And yeah, there's not one executive in any of those companies, even less than 10 million, even, that don't think they can do it. They all know they can do it. Yeah. Even when they can't do it, they believe it.
It takes a little bit of panache, right?
It does, yeah. And you know what? It's the same principle of standing up for your beliefs as Christian. If your head's not above the crowd and you're not going in the opposite direction of everybody, if you're not getting hit with tomatoes, you're probably not doing anything worth doing, right? And those guys are the same way. They're like, yeah, we can get to Mars. Let's go. Right? Right? We can have a car that drives itself. Right? That thing passes me 6 times on the highway every day. I mean, it's always going. The Silicon Valley is not a spot for people that are ready to rest in the past. This is a forward thinking, what the future has to offer kind of place to live. And I think that's what I kind of like about it. I don't have to be a part of it because it's over there. I can go surfing over here, and then I can paddle in the morning, and I can log onto my computer, and I can deal with it, and then turn the whole thing off, and it's just quiet and ocean waves, and that's the way to do it. But don't move here.
2 last questions for you. How long have you been surfing?
Well, I'm a hodad.
Okay.
So a hodad is a very solemn and respected position of hanging out with surfers who actually surf.
Oh, nice.
So I do a lot of paddleboarding now that I'm older. I do a lot of paddleboarding, but I first learned to surf when I was a freshman in college. I was 18 years old in San Diego. I went to school in San Diego, and that's where I learned to surf. I haven't surfed consistently every day or every month or anything like that for the last 30 years. But I was out this weekend for sure, and I'm thinking paddling out tomorrow. So. But yeah, we do a lot of paddleboarding now. A lot of kayaking is a lot of fun.
I love kayaking.
And just playing in the ocean. And I really got a real. I loved this when I was a kid too, because I grew up in the tidal pools around San Diego and Point Loma. Are the tidal pools that are just always just fascinated me. And we have a lot of tidal pools here too. And I just hanging out and observing nature and watching these little things crawl around. And I can spend hours doing that too. So I love it both. But yeah, I've been surfing for 30 years, but I've always been a horrible surfer, but I'm a pretty good paddleboarder. Nice.
It's kind of like go back to the golf. I've been golfing for a long time, but I'm still not getting any good. Go back, and then that can tie back into maybe because I never got the coach or the mentor that I needed to become a better golfer. So, last question, and this is, I feel like, some of the best answers, no pressure, come from this question. Any parting words of wisdom for the entrepreneurs watching? Because I don't like you to leave anything left unsaid. Like, I wish he would have asked me that so I could have said this. So this is your opportunity to pass on some wisdom.
Okay, so no pressure at all. Just be something smart, quick. So I got to tell you, I have really, really enjoyed being here with you. I have loved your questions and just chatting with you over this whole thing. There's a couple things I guess I'd like to say. I kind of mentioned it in my last little bit there that you really have to believe. You need to believe that your brain can change and that you can change it and that you're able to change it and it's not too hard. That belief system is integrated into you before you were born, before before you knew your place in the world, before you knew where you were at, socially, and before you had a conscious understanding of yourself. You're 3 days old, you're 4 days old, you're a week old. You don't know mom. Now you might say, "Oh, well, I value my mother," and I hope you do, and I hope your mother's important to you. But when you were 3 days old, you didn't value your mother. Your brain automatically came up with a values hierarchy of food, warmth, security, love, even, right? And that nurturing, that your brain decided that was a value for you. And those values over time decided what you thought about. And those thoughts over time devalued what decisions you made and what actions you took. And those actions that you take over time are your decisions, form the habits that your brain automatically makes. And the sum of your habits and choices of your life is your destiny.
Mm.
And that destiny is not up to circumstance or happenstance or guesswork or luck. You can plan it.
Mm.
Now, the first step is always easiest, because if you're planning to build a house on the sand, you're going to fail. If you're always heading east and trying to find a sunset, you'll never see it. I will not play professional football next weekend. There are some things, right? If you don't have a good strategy going east to try to find a sunset that sets in the west, then you're never going to reach that. It's going to be frustrating for you. You're going to fail. You're going to quit, because quitting is the only time you fail. So because of that system that automatically is set up in your head, you can choose your own destiny. So don't go through life with a destiny that's not architected, that's not built and thought out and thought through. And the first step is make sure you know where you're going after. Once you reach your destiny, there's the next destiny, right? And if you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ and know who your Savior is, and know that there's one true God who came and manifested himself on earth to die for your sins, the sins of all mankind for all time, my sins tomorrow, then whatever you build is going to be like building a house on the sand. That's the first step. After that, simple, easy to do, easy to incorporate in your life, morning and evening routine, a couple of quick things to do while you're at the office, some things to shake it off, relax stress, give your brain some energy. Those are easy things to do that can shape that destiny and provide you a legacy of impact.
Wow. Wow. Love it. Love it. You came through under the pressure. You delivered something spectacular. Oh, well, thank you so much again, Stu. And until next time, entrepreneurs, keep moving forward.